Can you hear me? Don't close your eyes.
Hope Sullivan was on her knees. A stranger lay crumpled on the restaurant floor, filthy, shaking, barely conscious.
Get your hands off him.
Hope pressed a damp napkin to his lips.
He hasn't eaten in days.
Look at you, just as filthy as he is. No wonder you feel sorry for him.
A customer. Just call the cops.
Just call the cops!
Gerald from the kitchen.
Hope, don't be stupid.
Get out of my restaurant, you and that trash on my floor.
Hope didn't flinch. She rang up a plate with her last $50, the only thing between her and eviction, and fed him. That night she walked home with nothing. But that dirty floor? It was about to open a door she never dreamed existed. Let's rewind. Before that stranger hit the floor, before the insults, before the $50. Let's talk about who Hope Sullivan actually was. 5:45 a.m., South Memphis. A studio apartment so small you could touch both walls if you stretched your arms. Peeling wallpaper. A sink that dripped every 4 seconds. Hope had counted. She'd taped it twice. It still dripped. Hope was 26. She'd been taking care of her grandmother, Nell Sullivan, since she was 19. Nell was 79, wheelchair-bound, and her memory came and went like radio static. Clear one moment, gone the next. Every morning, same routine. Hope would wake before the sun. She'd heat water on the stove because the apartment's hot water hadn't worked since March. She'd soak a cloth, wring it out, and wash Nell's face. Gentle, slow, like it mattered. Because it did. "Morning, Grandma." Nell blinked up at her. "That you, baby?" "Always me." "You eat yet?" "I will." She wouldn't. Hope opened the fridge. Half a can of beans, a piece of bread so stale it bent instead of broke. She packed the beans for lunch. The bread she gave to Nell with a thin layer of peanut butter, the last of the jar. Nell chewed slow. "This is good." "Glad you like it, Grandma." Hope braided Nell's hair the way she did every morning. 2 plaits, tucked behind the ears. While she braided, she hummed a hymn. The same one Nell used to sing when Hope was small and scared and the world felt too big. On the kitchen wall, 3 eviction notices, taped in a row like a countdown, 3 months behind. The landlord, Curtis Webb, had called twice last week. Hope answered once. He gave her until Friday. Friday was 2 days away. She tied her shoes. The left sole was separating at the toe, and kissed Nell on the forehead. "Lock the door behind me, Grandma." I know. I'm old, not useless." Hope smiled. That smile cost her something, but she gave it anyway. She walked to work. 40 minutes. Every single day. The bus was $1.75 each way, $3.50 round trip. That was a loaf of bread. That was peanut butter. That was Nell eating tomorrow. So she walked, past the nice houses on Bellevue with their trimmed lawns and porch lights, past the Baptist church where she used to go with Nell before the wheelchair made the steps impossible, past the gas station where a man once told her she was too pretty to be this broke. She didn't respond. She just walked faster. Hope had graduated high school as valedictorian, top of her class. Scholarship offers from 2 state universities. But the month before freshman orientation, her mother died in a car accident, and Nell, already slowing down, had no one else left. Hope turned down both offers. Got a job at the Crossing Grill, tied an apron, clocked in. That was 8 years ago. She arrived at the restaurant at 6:50 a.m., 10 minutes early, always 10 minutes early. Diane was already behind the counter. Section 4. Section 4. The worst tables in the house. Right by the kitchen doors and the hallway to the restrooms. Loud, hot, low tips. "Got it," Hope said. Gerald Toombs, the head chef, spotted her lunch bag. "Beans again? What is that, 3 days straight?" A cook behind him laughed. Hope didn't answer. She put her lunch in the back, washed her hands, and started setting tables. Lorraine Banks, mid-40s, white, divorced, the only person in that building who treated Hope like a human being, came over and slipped a bread roll into Hope's apron. "Eat something real today." "Lorraine, I'm fine." "Girl, you're not fine, but you're stubborn, so just take the bread." Hope took the bread. By noon, she'd served 14 tables, smiled at every one, memorized orders without writing them down, cleaned 2 spills, carried a toddler's dropped sippy cup back to a grateful mother. At 2:15 p.m., a man at table 9, trucker, quiet, kind eyes, left a $50 tip on a $22 bill. Hope stared at it. $50. Friday's rent was still short, but $50 meant she could beg Curtis Webb for 1 more week. $50 meant she could breathe. She folded the bill carefully, tucked it into her apron pocket, and whispered to herself, Friday. She had no idea she'd never spend that $50 on rent. Now you know who Hope Sullivan is. You know what she carries. You know what that $50 meant. So let's go back to that floor. 3:47 p.m., the Crossing Grill. The stranger came through the front door like the wind blew him in. He didn't look dangerous. He looked empty. Hollow cheeks, clothes that hadn't been washed in weeks, eyes that couldn't focus. He made it past the hostess stand, then his legs quit. The restaurant went silent. Not the good kind of silent. The kind where everyone sees and nobody wants to be the one who has to do something. A woman at table 6 pulled her daughter into her lap. A man near the window turned his whole body away. The couple at table 3 suddenly got very interested in the menu. Diane moved first, but not forward. Don't anybody touch him. We don't know what he's on. Gerald came to the kitchen doorway, looked at the man on the floor, looked at Diane, went back inside. Hope was carrying 2 plates to section 4. She stopped, set them down on the nearest table, and walked straight toward him. She knelt. Hey, can you hear me? His eyes fluttered. His lips moved, but nothing came out. When's the last time you ate? A whisper, barely there. 4 days. Hope looked up at Diane. He needs food. He needs to leave. He can't stand up. Not my problem. Not yours either. Hope stood, walked to the register, pulled the $50 bill from her apron, the one she'd been holding like a prayer, and rang up a plate. Grilled chicken, rice, greens, a glass of water. Gerald watched from the kitchen, said nothing, did nothing. Hope brought the plate back, sat on the floor beside the man, lifted his head gently, held the water to his lips. A customer at the bar shook his head. This is a restaurant, not a shelter. Another one. Somebody call somebody. Lorraine stood near the back, hands over her mouth. She wanted to help, but Diane was already walking. I gave you a chance, Hope. Hope kept her hand on the glass. You want to sit on my floor and play hero? Fine, but you don't work here anymore. Hope didn't respond. She held the glass steady until the man swallowed. Diane's voice went loud enough for every table to hear. Get your things, you're done. Hope set the glass down. She looked at the man. Eat slow, okay? Don't rush. Then she stood, untied her apron, folded it, set it on the counter, and walked out. No scene, no tears, no fight. Just a woman who made a choice and carried it through the door. It was dark by the time she got home. 40 minutes on foot. No $50 in her pocket. No job in the morning. Friday still coming. She passed the Baptist church, sat on the steps. Not to pray, just to sit, just to breathe. The streetlight above her buzzed like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or give up. She got up, kept walking. At home, Nell was in her wheelchair by the window, waiting. You're late, baby. I know, Grandma, sorry. Hope heated the last can of soup, split it into 2 bowls. Nell got the bigger one. They ate in silence for a while. Then Nell put her spoon down. Her eyes were clear. One of those moments. You did something good today, didn't you? Hope's throat tightened. What makes you say that? Because you got that look. Same look your mama used to get. Like the world took something from you, but you gave something bigger back. Hope couldn't speak. She just held Nell's hand. Later, after Nell fell asleep, Hope sat alone at the kitchen table. 3 eviction notices on the wall. A calculator app on a cracked phone. Numbers that didn't add up. A Friday that wouldn't wait. She didn't cry. She just sat there. In the quiet. In the dark. 2 days passed. Hope applied to 4 restaurants. 2 didn't call back. One said they'd Keep her on file. The last one offered her a dishwashing shift. 3 nights a week, no tips, no benefits. She took it. Friday morning, Curtis Webb called. Hope, I like you, but I got bills too. I know, Mr. Webb, I just need... You needed time last month, and the month before that. 1 more week, please. A long pause. Monday, that's it. She hung up. Monday, 4 days to find money that didn't exist. Then Saturday came. 5:14 a.m. Hope was awake. She hadn't really slept. Nell was still breathing slow in the next room. The apartment was dark, quiet. A sound, soft. Paper sliding across tile. Hope looked at the door. A cream-colored envelope at the floor. No stamp, no return address. Hand delivered. She picked it up. Heavy paper. The kind she'd never bought in her life. Inside, a single typed card. Ms. Sullivan, your kindness was witnessed. Please come to the Caldwell Estate, 1040 Ridgeland Row, Saturday at 10 a.m. A car will be waiting at the corner of Lamar and Bellevue at 9:15. E.C. Hope read it 3 times. She opened her phone. Typed, Caldwell Estate, Memphis. The results loaded slow. Cracked screen, cheap data plan. But when they came, she stopped breathing. Everett Caldwell, 78 years old. One of the wealthiest men in Tennessee. Founder of the Caldwell Foundation. Housing, education, second chance programs. Almost no public photos. His wife died decades ago. His daughter Adelaide died 21 years ago. He lived alone, on a hill, behind iron gates. Hope stared at the screen. Who are you? She whispered. And more importantly, how did he know her name? She almost didn't go. She stood in front of her closet, if you could call it that, for 20 minutes. She owned one good dress, navy blue. She'd worn it to her mother's funeral and twice to job interviews that went nowhere. She ironed it 3 times, put it on, took it off, put it back on. Nell watched from her wheelchair. Where you going, baby? I'm not sure yet, Grandma. You look nice. Thank you. You nervous? Little bit. Nell smiled. Good. Means it matters. 9:15 a.m. Corner of Lamar and Bellevue. A black car sat waiting. Clean. Quiet. The kind of car that didn't belong in this neighborhood. The driver stepped out. Miss Sullivan? That's me. Mr. Caldwell is expecting you. Hope got in. The leather seat was cool. The car smelled like something she couldn't name. Not perfume, not cologne, just clean. Everything was just clean. The drive lasted 12 minutes. The neighborhood changed fast. Cracked sidewalks became stone curbs. Chain-link fences became wrought iron. Laundromats became gardens. The car turned through a pair of iron gates and climbed a long, winding driveway lined with magnolia trees. At the top, a stone estate. Old money, the kind of house that had rooms nobody used. Hope's hands were shaking in her lap. She pressed them flat against her knees. The car stopped. A man in a gray suit stood at the front door. Miss Sullivan, I'm Philip Bowman, Mr. Caldwell's attorney. He's in the sunroom. Hope stepped out, looked up at the house, looked back at the car, looked at her shoes, the left sole still separating at the toe. She took a breath and walked in. The sunroom was bigger than Hope's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, bookshelves that stretched to the ceiling, a grand piano in the corner, dusty, untouched, like it was waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. On the mantelpiece, a child's crayon drawing in a silver frame. Next to it, a photograph of a young woman holding a baby, both laughing. Hope noticed everything. She couldn't help it. This room was full of love that had nowhere left to go. Everett Caldwell sat in a leather chair near the window, white-haired, sharp eyes, a face that looked like it hadn't smiled in a long time, not because he was mean, but because smiling cost him something he'd run out of. He didn't stand. He just looked at her. You're smaller than I expected. Hope met his eyes. Most people are, in person. A pause. Something shifted in his face. Not a smile, but close. "Sit down, Ms. Sullivan." She sat, straight back, hands in her lap. The chair was softer than her bed at home. "Do you know why you're here?" "Your letter didn't say much." "No, it didn't." He leaned forward. "The man on that restaurant floor, the one you helped, his name is Nathan, Nathan Caldwell." Hope blinked. "Caldwell?" "My grandson." The room got very quiet. Everett's voice stayed steady, but his hands told a different story. They gripped the armrest like he was holding himself in place. "My daughter, Adelaide, died in a car accident 21 years ago. Nathan was 9. After that, he fell apart. Slowly at first, then all at once. Dropped out of school, drugs, rehab, more drugs. He pushed away everyone who tried to help, including me." He paused, looked at the photograph on the mantelpiece. "I hadn't seen him in 3 years. Didn't know if he was alive or dead. I hired people to find him, private investigators. They'd get a lead, a shelter in Nashville, a hospital in Little Rock, and by the time they got there, he was gone." Hope listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't nod politely. She just listened the way people do when they know the weight of what's being said. "Then 4 days ago, my attorney received a call. Someone at a hospital in Memphis. Nathan had been brought in by paramedics, dehydrated, malnourished, disoriented, but alive." Everett looked at Hope. "Alive because of you." Hope shook her head. "I just gave him a plate of food." "No, you gave him a plate of food while 31 people watched and did nothing. There's a difference." He nodded to Philip Bowman, who stood near the door. Philip opened a laptop on the side table and turned it toward Hope. Security footage. The crossing grill. Grainy, slightly tilted angle, but clear enough. Hope watched herself on that screen. She watched the customers pull back. She watched the mother cover her daughter's eyes. She watched Gerald lean out from the kitchen and disappear back in. She watched Diane point and shout, and she watched herself kneel, press the napkin to his lips, walk to the counter, pay, come back, sit on the floor, feed him. 31 people in the frame. 30 turned away. 1 didn't. "I've watched this 9 times, Everett said. His voice cracked, just barely. He caught it fast. 9 times. And every time I look for someone else to move first. Nobody does. Just you." Hope stared at the screen. She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. Everett composed himself, straightened in his chair. "Nathan is in a private recovery facility now. Medical care, detox, counseling. He's stable. For the first time in years, he's stable." He let that sit for a moment. "Ms. Sullivan, I didn't bring you here to say thank you. Thank you is a word. Words are cheap." He reached for a folder on the side table. "I brought you here to make you an offer." He opened the folder. Inside, a formal letter on Caldwell Foundation letterhead. "Community Outreach Coordinator. Full salary. $62,000 a year. Health insurance. Housing assistance for you and your grandmother. And I'll personally arrange for Nell to receive physical therapy and memory care from the best specialists in Memphis." Hope's lips parted. She read the letter, read it again. Her hands were trembling. "Mr. Caldwell." "Everett." "Mr. Caldwell." She looked up. "I don't want charity." "Good, because this isn't charity." He leaned forward. "I watched that video 9 times. You did something 30 other people wouldn't do. I'm not giving you a gift, Ms. Sullivan. I'm making an investment." Hope held his gaze. The room was quiet except for the ticking of a clock she hadn't noticed before. "Why me? You could hire anyone." "I could, and I have. People with degrees, people with connections, people who interview beautifully and shake hands like politicians." He tapped the laptop screen, frozen on the image of Hope kneeling. None of them would have done that. Hope looked down at the letter again. 62,000. Housing. Nell's care. A real life. A door she'd stopped believing existed. "Okay," she said, quiet, steady. "I'll take it." "Good." They shook hands. Her grip was firm. He noticed. Philip Bowman stepped forward with an orientation packet. Your first day is Monday. I'll walk you through. One more thing, Everett said. Hope turned. His voice changed, softer, almost a warning. Not everyone at the foundation will welcome you, Ms. Sullivan. Some people protect gates more than they protect people. I need you to be ready for that. Hope held the packet against her chest. I've been walking past locked gates my whole life, Mr. Caldwell. I know what they look like. Everett watched her leave. The front door closed. The car pulled away. Philip stood beside him. What do you think? Everett looked at the frozen screen, Hope on her knees, a stranger in her arms. I think she's the real thing. Hope's first week at the Caldwell Foundation felt like walking into someone else's life. The office was in a renovated warehouse downtown. Exposed brick, tall windows, the kind of space where people carried laptops instead of trays. Her desk had a nameplate, a real one, engraved. Hope Sullivan, Community Outreach Coordinator. She touched it twice the first morning, just to make sure. The work came natural. Reviewing housing applications, visiting shelters, organizing outreach events in neighborhoods she already knew, because she'd lived in them. While other coordinators studied poverty in reports, Hope had studied it at her kitchen table. Her coworkers were polite, mostly. A few smiled, a few didn't. She was the youngest person on the floor, the only black coordinator. She felt eyes on her in meetings, not hostile, not warm, just watching, like they were waiting to see if she'd last. She lasted. Tuesday, Nell's first physical therapy appointment. Hope stood behind a glass window watching a therapist guide Nell's arms through slow, careful movements. Nell looked confused at first. Then she laughed at something the therapist said. A real laugh, the kind Hope hadn't heard in months. Hope pressed her hand against the glass. Tears came. She let them. Wednesday evening. Hope met Lorraine at a coffee shop, their first sit-down since everything changed. Lorraine stirred her cup. So, the Crossing Grill's been losing customers. Someone posted the whole story online. Restaurant fires waitress for helping a dying man. Diane's been doing damage control all week. Hope shook her head. I'm not looking for revenge. I know you're not. That's what makes it so good. Lorraine grinned. Something better is already happening. They laughed. Easy. Light. The way people laugh when the weight lifts. Even a little. That night, Hope slept without setting 3 alarms. She didn't need to calculate bus fare. She didn't need to check the eviction notices. They were gone. Paid through the year. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she exhaled. But some doors that open also let other things in. Diane Prescott was not the kind of woman who lost quietly. The online post had gone semi-viral. Not millions, but enough. Enough for regulars to stop coming. Enough for a local news blog to call asking questions she didn't want to answer. Enough for Douglas Moore, the restaurant's absentee owner up in Nashville, to leave a voicemail she hadn't returned. She was losing control, and Diane Prescott without control was a dangerous thing. Then Gerald told her. She's working for the Caldwell Foundation now. Diane set down her coffee. Excuse me? Hope. She got hired. Some kind of outreach job. Gerald's cousin works in the building. Said she's got her own desk and everything. Diane didn't say anything for a long time. She just stood behind the register, perfectly still, the way people get when anger turns into math. Hope Sullivan, the woman she fired on a restaurant floor, was now sitting in an office funded by one of the wealthiest men in Memphis, getting praised, getting paid, getting everything. And Diane? Diane was watching her restaurant bleed out one empty table at a time. That's when the plan started. But before Diane made her move, the foundation was already doing its own quiet damage. Hope's second week started with a meeting she wasn't invited to. She found out at lunch. Lorraine had texted, "How was the housing strategy meeting?" Hope stared at the message. "What meeting?" She checked her email. Nothing. Checked the shared calendar. There it was, a 10 a.m. session on community housing initiatives. Her exact job, her exact program. No invite. She told herself it was a mistake, Outlook glitch, somebody forgot. Then it happened again. Thursday, a donor briefing on outreach metrics, her numbers. She walked past the conference room and saw 4 coordinators inside. None of them looked up. Small things. The kind of things that aren't small at all. A conversation that stopped when she walked into the break room. A shared document she didn't have editing access to. A coworker who smiled at everyone in the hallway except her. Nobody said anything wrong. That was the trick. Nothing you could point to, nothing you could report. Just a temperature, a feeling, like the room got 2 degrees colder whenever she entered. Hope kept her head down, did her work, visited shelters, reviewed applications, built her program the way she knew how, by listening to people nobody else listened to. But the loneliness had weight, and she carried it home every night. It took Diane 3 days to finish the plan. She pulled Gerald into the back office on a Tuesday night after closing. "I need you to sign something." Gerald looked at the paper. A witness statement, dated the day Hope was fired. It said Hope had taken $200 from the register before leaving. "Diane, I didn't see her take anything." "You were in the kitchen. You don't know what you saw." "I know I didn't see that." Diane leaned closer. "Gerald, I've kept you employed through 3 health inspections and a grease fire. You owe me. Sign the paper." "And if I don't?" "Then I tell Douglas more about the case of bourbon you've been skimming from the storeroom since last October. Your choice." Gerald stared at her. His hands were shaking. He picked up the pen. He signed it. Diane made a copy, typed up a fake theft report, backdated it, sent it, anonymously, to the Caldwell Foundation's compliance office. And then she waited. It took 6 days. Hope was at her desk on a Thursday morning reviewing shelter applications when Philip Bowman appeared in her doorway. His face was different, stiff, formal. The warmth from their first meeting, gone. "Hope, conference room now, please." She followed him down the hall. 2 other people were already seated, a woman from HR and a man she didn't recognize. Nobody smiled. Philip slid a document across the table. "We received an anonymous report alleging that you stole $200 from the Crossing Grill's register on the day of your termination. It includes a signed witness statement." Hope read it. Her hands went cold. "This never happened. We're required to investigate. It's protocol." "Philip, I never touched that register. I paid for the food with my own money. You saw the footage." The HR woman spoke, calm, rehearsed. "Ms. Sullivan, you'll be placed on administrative leave effective immediately. Full pay during the investigation. We'll need you to surrender your badge and vacate your desk by noon." Hope looked at Philip. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "You know this isn't real," she said. Philip's jaw tightened. "I'll do everything I can to resolve this quickly." "That's not what I asked." Silence. Hope stood, walked out of the conference room, down the hallway, past the desks of co-workers who suddenly had very important things to look at on their screens, past her own desk, the nameplate still there, engraved, like a promise someone was taking back. She paused, touched the nameplate with her fingertip, then kept walking. She made it to the elevator before her chest started shaking. Outside, she sat on a bench, the same bench where Foundation employees ate lunch. She'd sat here 3 days ago with a sandwich and thought, maybe this is real. Maybe this is my life now. She called Lorraine. "It's Diane." Lorraine's voice went sharp. "What did she do?" "She filed a fake theft report, said I stole $200, got Gerald to sign as a witness." "That lying, Hope, Gerald didn't see anything. He was in the kitchen the entire time." "I know that, but they've got a signed statement and I've got nothing." Silence on the line. Then Lorraine. "Not yet, you don't." Hope hung up, stared at her phone. A new notification. Curtis Webb. "Ms. Sullivan, the housing assistance check hasn't cleared. Please contact me by Friday or I'll need to begin proceedings." The Foundation's payment had frozen with her suspension. Of course it had. Hope walked home. 40 minutes. Same route. Same cracked sidewalks. But the magnolia trees were gone again. The wrought iron was gone. She was back to the version of the world she knew best. The one that took things away just when you thought it was done taking. At home, Nell was agitated. The routine had changed. Hope was back too early. The energy was wrong. Nell could feel it the way old people feel weather coming. "What happened, baby?" "Nothing, Grandma. Just came home early." "Don't lie to me. I'm old, not stupid." Hope knelt beside her wheelchair, held her hands. "Someone said something about me that isn't true, and I have to figure out how to prove it." Nell squeezed her hands, hard, stronger than Hope expected. "You remember what I told you when you were little? When those girls at school said those things about your mama?" Hope nodded. "I said, the truth doesn't need volume. It just needs time." Hope cooked dinner. Rice and canned vegetables. The cupboard was full now, at least for a while. She gave Nell the bigger plate, same as always. Nell looked at it, looked at Hope's plate, pushed a spoonful of rice back onto Hope's. "We share tonight, baby." Hope didn't argue. She couldn't. After Nell fell asleep, Hope sat on the kitchen floor, back against the cabinet, lights off, phone dark. She didn't cry because she was sad. She cried because she was tired. Tired of building things that people kept knocking down. Tired of being good in a world that punished it. Tired of kneeling for strangers and getting her knees kicked out from under her. She cried quietly, the way she always did, so Nell wouldn't hear. Outside, a dog barked somewhere down the block. Then nothing. Just the drip of the sink. Every 4 seconds. She'd counted. The apartment was dark, but somewhere across town a phone was ringing. Gerald Toombs sat on the edge of his bed, staring at Lorraine's number on his screen. His hand hovered over the answer button. He thought about the paper he signed. He thought about the bourbon Diane held over his head. He thought about Hope on the floor, feeding that man while he stood in the doorway and did nothing. He thought about doing nothing again. His thumb touched the screen. "Lorraine?" Yeah, it's Gerald. "Listen, I need to tell you something." Gerald talked for 14 minutes. Lorraine sat on her couch, phone on speaker, a notepad in her lap. She didn't interrupt. She let him talk, and she let her phone record every word. She called me into the back office after closing, had the paper already typed up. I told her I didn't see anything. She said it didn't matter. She said if I didn't sign, I'd be next. "So you signed?" "Yeah, Gerald. You know that paper is inside the Caldwell Foundation right now. Hope's been suspended." Silence. Then, "I know. And you know Diane pocketed cash from the register herself, more than once." "I know that too." Lorraine closed her eyes. "Why are you calling me now?" "Because I can't sleep. Because every time I close my eyes, I see her on that floor feeding that man, and I'm standing in the kitchen doorway doing nothing. Again." Lorraine let that sit. "Will you say all of this again? On the record, to the foundation, to whoever needs to hear it." A long pause. Yeah, I will." The next morning, Lorraine brought the recording to Hope. They sat at Hope's kitchen table. Nell was napping in the next room. The apartment was quiet. Hope listened to the whole thing. Gerald's voice, shaky, guilty, real. "Is this enough?" Hope asked. "It's a start. But a recording of a guy saying he lied, that proves the statement is fake. It doesn't prove you didn't take the money." "So what does?" "The cameras." Hope shook her head. "Diane unplugged the system. She told Gerald to pull the local recorder the same day." "The local recorder, yeah, but the system is cloud synced. I looked it up. That model auto-saves to a remote account. Diane controls the box in the office. She doesn't control the cloud." "Who does?" "The owner, Douglas Moore, Nashville." Hope leaned back. "I've never met him. He's never met me. Why would he help?" "Because he doesn't know what Diane's been doing. And I'm guessing when he finds out she's been stealing from his register and filing fake reports in his restaurant's name, he's going to care." That afternoon, there was a knock on Hope's door. She opened it. Nathan Caldwell stood in the hallway, clean-shaven, thin but steady, eyes clear. 30 days of recovery had carved something new into his face. Not health, not yet. but intention. Hi. Hi. Can I come in? She stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like someone learning how to take up space again without apologizing for it. They sat at the kitchen table. Hope made coffee. Instant, nothing fancy. Nathan held the mug with both hands. I came to say something I should have said a long time ago. Hope waited. You saved my life. I want to say that out loud, to your face, not through a lawyer, not through my grandfather, just me to you. Hope looked at him. You don't owe me anything, Nathan. Yeah, I do. He set the mug down. My grandfather told me what happened. The report, the suspension, all of it. Does he know you're here? No, and it doesn't matter. I'm not here because of him. He looked her in the eye. I'm here because you knelt on a floor for me when I was the worst version of myself. And I'll be damned if I sit in a recovery center and let someone destroy you for it. Hope didn't respond right away. She just looked at this man, the same one who'd been shaking on a restaurant floor 3 weeks ago, sitting upright in her kitchen, offering to fight for her. We need the security footage from the restaurant, she said. Cloud backup. The owner in Nashville controls the account. Nathan nodded. Douglas Moore. I can reach him. The Caldwell name still opens doors. Might as well use it for something that matters. By that evening, Nathan had Moore on the phone. Moore had no idea about the incident, no idea about the firing, no idea Diane had filed a report using his restaurant's name. He accessed the cloud archive that night. The footage was all there. Every angle, every minute. Hope, never once near the register. Diane, pocketing cash at closing. Diane, unplugging the local recorder. Diane, smiling while she did it. Nathan called Philip Bowman. Lorraine submitted Gerald's recorded statement. The case against Hope Sullivan collapsed in a single afternoon. Philip Bowman laid everything on Everett Caldwell's desk. The recorded confession, the cloud footage, the fake theft report, the timeline. Everett didn't speak. He sat in his leather chair in the sunroom and watched the footage on the laptop. All of it. Twice. He watched Diane scream at Hope. He watched Gerald turn away. He watched Hope kneel. He watched her pay. He watched her feed a stranger while the room pretended he didn't exist. Then he watched the second clip. Diane at closing, hand in the register, cash in her pocket. A glance at the camera, a smile. Then the plug pulled from the wall. Everett closed the laptop, slowly. Reinstate her, today. Philip nodded. Already drafted, but sir, the gala is this Saturday. 300 guests. Media, donors, city officials. I know. What would you like to do? Everett looked at the frozen screen, Hope on her knees, a stranger in her arms. I'd like to tell a story. Saturday evening, the Caldwell Foundation annual gala. The grand hall was the kind of room Hope had only seen in movies. Crystal chandeliers, long tables draped in white linen, 300 guests in suits and gowns, donors, politicians, university presidents, journalists, champagne glasses catching light like little pieces of the life she'd never been invited into. Until now. Hope stood near the back, wearing a dress Lorraine had helped her pick out. Deep green, simple. She'd tried on 4 others. Lorraine vetoed all of them. You're not trying to fit in. You're walking in as yourself. Nell was beside her. Wheelchair polished, new cardigan, a soft cream color Hope had bought with her first foundation paycheck. Nell's hair was braided, 2 plaits, tucked behind the ears, same as every morning. Nell looked around the room. This place is too big. I know, Grandma. Where's the food? Hope laughed. A real one. Soon. Nathan stood across the room. Clean suit, hands in his pockets. He looked uncomfortable, the way people look when they're sober at a party for the first time in years. But he was there, standing, present. He caught Hope's eye across the room, nodded. She nodded back. Then the lights dimmed. Everett Caldwell took the stage. He looked different tonight. Not bigger, not louder, just certain. The way people look when they've made a decision they're not taking back. Every year I stand up here and talk about numbers. Grants funded, houses built, students enrolled. And those numbers matter. He paused. But tonight I want to tell you a story. Not about a program, about a person. The room settled. 3 weeks ago, a man collapsed on the floor of a restaurant in South Memphis. He was filthy. He was starving. He hadn't eaten in 4 days. He couldn't stand. 31 people were in that room. Everett let the silence hold. 30 of them turned away. He pressed a button. The screen behind him lit up. Security footage. The crossing grill. The room watched. 300 people, senators, doctors, donors, watching a grainy video of a man crumpling to the floor, watching customers pull back, watching a manager point and shout, watching a chef lean out and disappear. And then, watching one woman set down her plates, cross the room, and kneel. Nobody in the gala moved. On screen, Hope pressed a napkin to the man's lips, walked to the counter, paid with her own money, came back, sat on the floor, fed him. The footage played for 90 seconds. It felt like an hour. Everett spoke again, quiet, steady. That woman was a waitress. She made less in a month than most people in this room spend on dinner. She had 3 eviction notices on her wall. She walked 40 minutes to work because the bus cost too much. And when a stranger fell in front of her, a stranger everyone else decided wasn't worth touching, she spent her last $50 to feed him. He paused. She was fired for it. A murmur moved through the room, low, uncomfortable. The man on that floor was my grandson, Nathan Caldwell. The murmur turned into silence, the kind of silence that presses against your chest. I don't tell you this for sympathy. I tell you because for 3 years, I didn't know if my grandson was alive. And the only reason I know now, the only reason he's standing in this room tonight, is because one woman decided that a stranger's life mattered more than her last $50. Everett looked out into the crowd, found Hope. Miss Sullivan, Hope's breath stopped. I have spent 68 years building things, companies, foundations, portfolios, and in all that time, the most valuable thing I've ever witnessed cost $50 and happened on a tile floor. He straightened. Kindness without an audience is the only kind that counts. The room was still. Then someone stood. Then another. Then a whole table. Then the room. 300 people, standing, applauding, some of them crying. Hope stood in the back, Nell's hand in hers. She didn't wave. She didn't bow. She just stood there, tears running down her face, while her grandmother squeezed her hand and whispered, "That's my baby." Monday morning, Douglas Moore terminated Diane Prescott. The cloud footage showed everything: the stolen cash, the unplugged recorder, the fabricated report. Gerald Toombs was let go, but not charged. He'd cooperated. He'd told the truth. Late, but he told it. Diane faced potential criminal charges for filing a false report. Her lawyer advised her to stay quiet. For once, she listened. Gerald sent Hope a handwritten note. 3 sentences. No excuses, just, "I'm sorry. I should have moved. I didn't." Hope read it, folded it, put it in a drawer. She didn't reply, but she didn't throw it away. That Sunday, Nathan drove up to the Caldwell estate. First time in years he'd come through those gates on his own. No intervention, no lawyer, just him. Everett was in the sunroom. Same chair, same window, the piano still dusty. Nathan stood in the doorway. "Can I sit down?" "You never needed to ask." Nathan sat. They didn't talk right away. The clock ticked. A bird outside the window sang something neither of them recognized. "I'm sorry, Grandpa." "I know. I wasted a lot of years. You're here now." Nathan looked at the photograph on the mantelpiece, his mother, holding him as a baby, both laughing. She would have liked Hope. Everett's eyes softened. Something old and heavy shifted behind them. "Your mother would be proud of the man you're becoming." They didn't hug, but Nathan stayed. And for the first time in 21 years, they had dinner together. In the sunroom. 2 plates, 2 glasses of water. Nothing fancy. Everything that mattered. 6 a.m., same apartment, same sink, still dripping. But the fridge was full. Hope stood in the kitchen, barefoot, listening to the drip like it was an old song she'd grown up with. She'd fix it eventually, but not today. Today it sounded like home. She heated water on the stove, soaked a cloth, wrung it out, washed Nell's face. Gentle, slow, like it mattered. Because it still did. "Morning, Grandma." Nell blinked up at her. "That you, baby?" "Always me." "You eat yet?" Hope smiled. "I will, and this time I mean it." She opened the fridge. Eggs, bread, fresh, soft, the kind that didn't bend, butter, orange juice. She made 2 plates, same size this time. They ate together. Nell chewed slow. "This is good." "Glad you like it, Grandma." Same words, different morning. Hope braided Nell's hair, 2 plates, tucked behind the ears. Same hymn, but she hummed it louder today. Not because she was happier, because she wasn't afraid. On the kitchen wall, the eviction notices were gone. In their place, a framed photograph. Hope and Nell at the gala. Someone had taken it without them knowing. Nell in her cream cardigan, Hope in the green dress, both of them looking at something off camera, both of them smiling. Hope put on her shoes. The left sole had been repaired. Lorraine had taken them to a cobbler as a gift. "Don't argue," she'd said. "Just wear them." Hope kissed Nell on the forehead. "Lock the door behind me, Grandma." I know. I'm old, not useless." Same words, same smile, but the weight behind it was lighter now. Hope walked to work. Same route, 40 minutes. She still didn't take the bus. Not because she couldn't afford it, but because the walk was hers. It was where she thought, where she prayed, where she remembered who she was before anyone gave her a title or a nameplate or a standing ovation. She passed the Baptist church, the same steps where she'd sat alone in the dark the night she was fired. She stopped, looked at them. Then she kept walking, and she was smiling. At her desk, the nameplate was still there. Hope Sullivan, Community Outreach Coordinator. But next to it now, an envelope. No return address. She opened it. A handwritten note. Nathan's handwriting. "You didn't just save my life. You gave my grandfather his family back. I'll spend the rest of mine trying to be worthy of what you did on that floor. Anne." Hope read it, folded it carefully, placed it in her desk drawer, beside Gerald's note. 2 letters, 2 kinds of grace. She opened her laptop. New day, new work, same heart. So, where are they now? Hope Sullivan was promoted to Director of Community Outreach at the Caldwell Foundation within the year. She built a program that partners with local restaurants across Memphis to provide hot meals and job placement for unhoused individuals. She named it The Floor, after the place where it all started. Nell moved into a foundation-assisted home with Hope. New apartment, working sink. Hope still braids her hair every morning. 2 plates, tucked behind the ears. Nathan Caldwell completed a full recovery program. He works as a peer counselor at a Memphis treatment center. Every Sunday, he drives up to the estate for dinner with Everett. 2 plates, 2 glasses of water. Nothing fancy, everything that matters. The Crossing Grill was sold. It reopened under new ownership with a sign by the front door. 6 words. "Everyone is welcome here. Sit down." Diane Prescott was charged with filing a false police report. Last anyone heard, she was looking for work. Nobody called her back.
31 people, same floor, same moment. 30 looked away, 1 knelt, and that one, Hope Sullivan, paid for it with everything she had. Here's what I keep coming back to. Hope didn't know that man was a billionaire's grandson. She didn't know there were cameras. She didn't know anyone was watching at all. She just saw a human being on the floor that nobody wanted to touch. And she reached down with her last $50. The only thing between her and the street. That's not charity. That's the heroism. That's something deeper. That's someone who decided that a stranger's hunger mattered more than her own survival. and Everett Caldwell said it best. Kindness without an audience is the only kind that counts. Hope wasn't performing kindness. She was just kind. And that's the difference that changed everything. For Nathan, for Everett, and for a woman who'd been invincible her whole life. But this story leaves me with a question I can't shake. If kindness costs you everything, your job, your rent, your safety, is it still worth it? And if you hesitate to answer, what does that say about the world we've built? Tell me in the comments. When was the last time you chose kindness when it cost you something? Share this with someone who needs it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story. And remember, you never know whose life is on the floor. Be the one who kneels.